What's going on? It is the strategy show, Major League Baseball strategy show. Dave Lockran, Jake Harry, here on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Show sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, by the way, where you don't have to go up against someone throwing in 150 lineups, and you get the best bang for your buck. 0% management fee. I believe that one should still be open. That one fills up really quick. 0% management fee, meaning they're taking nothing off the top. Whatever is entered is what is in the prize pool. Nothing for them, everything for you. That's right. It's still there. The 4.5K, no management fee, but it fills up super quick. And then the 10K guaranteed, 1.5K to first, $15 entry. That's up there as well. You also had all your golf contests. They had a lot of really nice golf contests, but those are locked and loaded already. Anyway, if you wanted to sign up, I can tell you a very easy way to do so and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points when you do. Those are as good as money. Those YSRPs, you can use them on the site, play whatever contest you want, so long as it's under $30 or $30, of course. So go to awesemo.com. There's a whole thing with us posting links in YouTube chat now. So, we gotta abide by the rules. But if you go to the articles or even on the homepage, you'll see the MLB Spotlight Pitchers. I believe it's actually the first thing that pops up, and you will get the or Spotlight Hitters. I'm sorry, Spotlight Hitters, and you'll see Awesemo or Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Use the sign up code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, and upon depositing, get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. That is Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. With that out of the way, Jake, what's going on, man?
Not much. I had a rough one last night, but can't complain. Have had some recent success, so taking the good with the bad. But yeah, it looked like it was a tough night for a lot of the top players, so that made me feel a little bit better. Did you end up playing? How did you do?
I was okay. I had a lot of Boyd, but I had a lot of Angels too. And I mean, the Angels are one of those teams where I'm willing to pay for them most times. I know you had a lot of Brewers. It's pretty simple concept. They both have a lot of power. They're pretty loaded from top to bottom. But I tell you what, the only issue I had with the Brewers yesterday, as I was looking over that lineup, is it felt really watered down for a matchup with a lefty. Like no Aguilar, no Lorenzo Cain, which meant you had to go all out and pay up for like Grandal, who's better against a lot better against lefties than Moustakas. But at the same time, they have a lot of power. And then with the Angels, man, it just they didn't come through. Tanner Roark has stymied my success, I think, 2 straight starts now. I'm still not buying into him being this good. I still think he should struggle more against lefties, and I'll continue to roster guys against him.
Yeah, Roark's been really annoying to me as well. I think the last time actually he shut down the Brewers. So
Yeah, what was it, the Brewers?
I think so because I was really heavy
Oh,
against
it
him.
was the Brewers. Yes, I had a ton of them as well. Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty annoying. If you just look at the top of the leaderboards on lineup study, which I've got pulled up, you're not seeing a ton of really familiar names. You're not seeing a lot of like Alex Tom, Chipotle Addict, Slewfoot,
Papa Gates.
yeah, Papa Gates, those kind of guys near the top. I mean, Boggs Light, obviously a pretty solid player, but it wasn't like a night last night where the cream of the crop rose, and banked everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't recognize a lot of these usernames. I think uh, this always makes me feel a little bit better about having a rough night when I don't see the top players because those are the nights that I want to win at the lower stakes tournaments is when Alex and all these other guys are having big nights.
Right.
One tournament I did pull up was we don't talk a lot about three max and like cashy type lineups, and I've seen some pros use the like a cash style lineup in a three max super high stakes tournament. So this was yesterday a $3,180 entry with 3 max entries, 94 total entries. The 3,000 hits club, if you want to pull that up and follow along. Alex got fourth in it. He of course maxed it. He does not use a cashy lineup at all. Like he basically full out stacks. 4 threes. So stacking a little bit less in these 3 max tournaments, but still stacking a lot nonetheless. Whereas some of these
He
other
runs a
guys,
lot of 4-3-1s everywhere,
yeah,
though.
he does. He's doing more of that this year,
I've
I
noticed
think.
that.
Um, but like if you look at, and maybe this isn't a, yeah, so like Empire Maker, he ran a 3-2. I can't see what else he did. Maybe a 3-2-2. So he's stacking even less than someone like Alex is. What's your take on if you're doing a 94 entry tournament, and you have 3 lineups? Would you be looking to get more cashy builds, or would you be stacking 3 different teams?
Well, it's funny. I think I told you about this. The $100 single entry. It's always like 5 or 6K to first. There's good payouts on it. It's a single entry, and I think I told you a couple of weeks ago Alex had won it.
Mhm.
I was looking throughout it to see how I stacked up against him that night. Not great. I don't even think I cashed, but he ran a 4-3-1. No, it was a 4-4 Braves Pirates stack in a single entry. 400 max entries, or it's 400 field, which is not a lot at all. Uh, he ran a 4-4 Pirates Braves stack. Now, that might not sound outrageous, sure, but it was also 2 teams that had 0 ownership
Mhm.
as a stack. So I wonder when I've always wondered this, like when he's dropping them in, because he does well in single entry and 3 max too.
Oh yeah.
When he's doing that, is he just taking, you know, the 3 top lineups that he has after sorting them and dropping one into each? I don't know, but it works. As far as the question goes, I think you don't need to go completely off the reservation, but I also still don't know if it makes sense to go full chalk, because once you get higher up in stakes like that, the overlap's going to be massive.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen some chalkier lineups in this. Um,
Like, okay, how can you do you have ownership on that, on players?
yeah, here.
Like, what was
Let me
Matt
see.
Boyd? What was he, 80%, 70%
No, Matt Boyd was 34%.
in the
So
in the in the 94 total entries?
yeah,
Wow.
Zach Gallen was the highest exposed player. Alex had him on all 3 teams. He
Yeah, that
was,
makes sense.
yeah, so he was just grading out incredibly well for Alex.
I'm
Um,
really surprised Boyd wasn't higher owned against the rain. And by the way, it's a perfect illustration of how valuable strikeouts are for pitchers.
oh yeah,
Like he allowed 4 runs, he allowed 3 home runs in a single inning, and still had 26 fantasy points because he was racking up K after K after K. It's and just the ability to mitigate bad innings and bad games from a run prevention standpoint is so much more valuable than being able to not allow runs at all.
yeah. I think you and Adam talk about just points per strikeout.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, price per strikeout.
Yeah.
When all else fails and it's a tough pitching slate, just who can go out there and get you a few strikeouts? Because on a slate where there's bad pitching or whatever, a lot of these guys are going to give up a bunch of runs. You can't really predict the guy that's going to throw a 7 inning shutout. So strikeouts are more predictable long
That's why
term.
guys like Homer Bailey can be so valuable.
Yeah, and he's always super cheap. So
Yeah.
like Gallon was a guy that you're seeing he was even chalkier in these high stakes tournaments because they recognized that um, maybe it was a tough spot against the Nats, but he put up 17.6 at just over 7K, which was super valuable, even though he gave up a handful of runs as well.
Yeah, no doubt. So by the way, a guy I really liked in tournaments yesterday, he was in the deep dive. You can check that out at awesomeo.com. I switch off each day with Adam writing it, was Mike Miner. And I understood he was kind of expensive, but man, when you want to talk about a guy that so often goes completely overlooked because people still haven't bought into it, and then goes out there and puts up a monster performance. He threw a complete game, 1 run, 7 strikeout gem last night against the Tigers. I mean, this guy keeps getting it done, and his ability to get strikeouts and prevent runs has been unbelievable this year. Mike Miner might be the biggest surprise this season.
He's been fantastic, and he pitches in Texas, and he's been priced up, so that's why you're not seeing people get on him. I didn't even realize that until you told me that right now. Granted, I didn't have a lot to follow last night, so I wasn't
Realize
really
what?
in tune. That Miner, did he throw a shutout? Is that what you said?
No, well, complete game. He allowed one solo
Yeah,
shot. He had 35 DraftKings points.
yeah, 34.55 at 5% ownership in the 88.
Yeah,
So
dude, no one played him.
I didn't even think about playing him. Like he was coming up as such a poor value, but like maybe we're just not thinking about him correctly. He's shown massive upside. He's been consistent. He's done it in tougher matchups.
And
Like
he faced a team with the highest K rate or second highest K rate versus right hand, or
yeah,
sorry, a top 10 K rate versus left handed pitching.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been awesome, man.
I get why he wouldn't grade out as a good play though, which is why like I had to kind of go off the reservation with the analysis because guys like that, when you have Boyd there, because I had Boyd grading out way better than Minor, but also way, way, way more popular as well.
Right.
What did Corbin do? Or
Uh,
was it Corbin, right? Yeah,
yeah,
Corbin.
Corbin. Let's see. He must have been up
Because
here.
I admittedly did not have interest in him. I forgot to check what he did.
33.35. So he
So
almost
he had a
paced
really
Minor.
good game too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wouldn't have been in too bad a shape going Minor over Corbin, but
Yeah.
yeah. Either way, all of the top guys above like 10K had pretty solid efforts yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of us at the site are like this, where if the winning lineup is going to have two pitchers that are 10K plus on a sizable slate, like we're just not probably going to win that night because that's a really like that really handcuffs you as far as what you can do with your lineup. So it worked out
Is that
last
what the
night.
winning lineups had?
Yeah, I'm looking at the winning lineup from the medium eight, the $88 tournament, 58 max. Boyd Corbin was the number one lineup.
I can't remember the last time I've had, especially if I'm like hand building a lineup in a three max or a single. I can't remember the last time I've paid a premium for both pitchers.
Yeah, because there's only a couple teams you can stack, and
Right.
there's 8 or 9
And if,
players. Like,
but here's the thing. The problem is that everyone gets stuck with the same roster construction. So if you go out and you're playing Minor and Boyd on a night where Toronto, has a semi decent matchup, Toronto bats are always dirt cheap, so everyone stacks Toronto. Or you see it with Detroit a lot. You've even seen it with Miami many times where they're really cheap. It just everyone gets kind of pigeonholed into the exact same lineup.
right, exactly, and that's just something I think a lot of us just aren't interested in. So we'll lose on those nights, and you're looking for these cheap pitchers to put up a decent amount of points and then spend up for bats more often than not. Obviously, they can change slate to slate, but looking at what the best lineups ended up being, that's just a night that I'm probably not going to win.
All right, what do you say we jump into this? We
do
got
it.
10 games. We've got 6 on the early, 4 on the night slate. Say we get it done.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Well, starting off, Philly and the New York Mets. It is the battle of the disappointments this year. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. Look, in fairness, from a fantasy standpoint, these guys have gone out there and had some really solid games, but they both have mid-4 ERAs. And as far as Aaron Nola goes, I'd love to look at you, Jake, and be like, yeah, he's just been really unlucky this year. He hasn't really been that unlucky, maybe a little bit, but not. I guess he has a 381 BABIP against lefties. That's not great, but you can't fake power, and he has given up a good amount of home runs. Wheeler, on the other hand, is striking out 27% of batters faced, 27% of lefties, 23.5% of righties, and he has a swinging strike rate of 10.7. The thing I find, by the way, I'm not knocking either of these guys. I'm just stating what we've seen on the season so far. And Nola's coming off a brilliant start against, was it Miami? One thing I find so amazing about Nola, though, Jake, is he has a 9.4% swinging strike rate, right? Like that, for a quote-unquote elite pitcher, that's not good. But he has a 32.4% called plus swinging strike rate. No one has more called strikeouts this year than Nola. No one has a higher called strike rate than Nola this year. So he's done a really good job of mitigating his inability to miss bats with just putting the ball where it needs to go and getting those called strikes.
Yeah, maybe being a little bit unpredictable, which is something that doesn't show up as much in the swinging strike stuff. So that's a number that I always have to remember because that's one thing that I look at with like every pitcher is the swinging strike rate, just your ability to miss bats. but he has been able to get strikeouts 28% to lefties, 24% to righties. He's the guy I'm more interested in this matchup, specifically on DraftKings. I don't even know how much I'll get to him, but Wheeler at 10K going up against the Phillies, a team that's patient with a lot of power, is something I don't think I'm going to be on with 90-degree weather and a near 5 implied total against for 10K. So both of these guys are actually super cheap on Yahoo. So I actually could get to Wheeler on Yahoo at $39. Nola's just 40 on Yahoo.
That's
so that would
crazy.
be a guy I would get to a lot. But, mild interest in Nola on DraftKings. Both of those guys, I think, in play on Yahoo.
Yeah, Nola will no doubt be chalky on Yahoo. There's no
FanDuel,
question.
Nola's 8,800.
That's really so. Basically, has a really elevated price point on DraftKings and nowhere else. 10-7 against the Mets. It's a little steep. He's coming off, one of his best starts of the season. He had 10 strikeouts in 8 innings, 1 earned. That was against the Marlins. I think the only issue with this one for me is does he have the strikeout stuff in this matchup? I think the answer is yes. Nola's actually striking lefties out at 28%, isn't he? That's surprising. But those are the numbers. His swinging strike rate against lefties alone is only 9.5%, but we've talked about it. He's really good at getting those called strikes. Something more significant too. I think you'll like this. So he's got a 378 WOBA and a 211 ISO against lefties. That's not good. I mean, you're close to the 400, 200 club, but his X WOBA is 310, which is league average, and his X ISO is 155. So in that respect, against lefties, it does look like Nola has been pretty unlucky this season.
Yeah, that's interesting that you point that out. We actually do have ownership. I forgot to refresh the page, so I was under the impression we didn't, but we do have it for the early and the main. On the early on DraftKings right now, Nola is the chalkiest player on the slate, but right behind him is Chase Anderson. So 46% on a 6-game slate I don't think is crazy. There's not a lot of great options to spend up for. He's kind of your only one if you're playing the 6-gamer. But I think he is going to project out as the best raw point pitcher. So I have no problem playing a good amount of him on DraftKings.
All right. With Wheeler, for me, it's tough. If Wheeler was coming in at like 8,500, I actually would have quite a bit of interest in him. And for one reason. I talk about how valuable strikeouts are. Wheeler, though, is very, very good at pitching deep into games. And he averages more than a strikeout per inning this season anyway. So it's not like, I'm sacrificing one for the other. This guy look at his innings pitched. Just take his last 10. 7, 7, 6, 7, 7 1/3, 7, 7, 4 2/3. That was at Yankee Stadium. I'll give him a pass. 6, 7. So 7 innings in 7 of his last 10 and 6+ innings in 9 of his last 10. Like, he does do a really good job of making sure he doesn't completely blow up in your face. But I think at price points like this, it's just difficult to get there.
Yeah, it is. And he's actually getting some ownership. 22% right now on the early slate. So if he's there, he's got to be really good for that price on this early slate. So it'll be tough for me to get to him. But like I said, look at him on Yahoo if you're interested in playing him. Shop around.
39.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, some of that pricing is a little bit difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Implied run totals in this game, by the way, might surprise you. The run total for the Mets is, I think, pretty average. It's coming in at 4.3. But the Phillies against Wheeler opened at 5.2. And now I believe it's 4.8 or 4.9. But they are expected, at least Vegas will say, to put runs up. I don't have a whole lot of interest in hitting here. I think I'd need to get guys that are cheap enough to make it viable. But maybe there's like Bryce Harper's really, really cheap on DraftKings, right?
Yeah.
Jay Bruce has been a monster. He had a walk-off. They called it a single. It was clearly a double, but he never got there. last night. Some of these bats are inexpensive enough, I think, to look at, Jake.
Yeah, their pricing sticks out to me. Harper, you mentioned, but like even Segura, Reese Hoskins at 4,500,
Yeah,
JT Realmuto, probably the best catcher on the slate, and
really
he's
cheap.
36. So they're just priced down for whatever reason. Even Jay Bruce, who was priced way up, is down to 4,200. So assuming they roll out a normal lineup, that might be a team that I would stack. Wheeler does give up some power, and um, the Phillies are really a really solid team, and they're just cheap.
They are. And if you were looking at one-offs from the Mets side, a couple of them aren't that expensive. Obviously, this would just be to get away from the field. But like I said, Nola has had some issues in the home run department this year. 1.64 home runs per nine, the lefties, and the 210 ISO. So it's not a crazy idea if these guys are cheap enough, but that would just be because Nola's going to be so damn chalky. I
Yep.
mean, 47% projected ownership on DraftKings right now is wild.
Yeah.
All right, Detroit and Texas. We're moving along here. Spencer Turnbull, Ariel Jurado. Implied totals on this one. You're at 4.7 for Detroit against Jurado and 4.9 for the Rangers against Spencer Turnbull. What are your thoughts on pitching here?
Uh, I probably will get to some Ariel Jurado at 6,700 just because he's cheap. Detroit strikes out so much in general, but versus righties, I mean, if you've got Jacoby Jones and Goodrum and Candelario and Bobby Wilson in this lineup, I think there's a decent chance for some strikeouts here for Jurado. So he's nothing more than a cheap option. I would like to not get to a ton of him. I think he's an average pitcher. Um, and it is 85 degrees here in Detroit, and it's a decent implied total against him. But he's probably going to be a guy I get to when I try to pay up for, like, the Twins or the Brewers or someone like that, Cubs on this slate. So I'll probably get to just Jurado. I don't know if I'm going to Turnbull here. 5 implied total. A lot of lefties in this lineup. You've got Gallo back. That makes this Texas lineup quite a bit more scary. And 9K, like, I think I would rather just find the extra salary to go up to Nola, because I don't think I would use Turnbull as my SP1 very often. And if I'm using him as my SP2, that means I'm paying up for Wheeler and Nola. And like I mentioned, I don't often use that lineup construction.
Yeah, agreed. The Rangers, when facing lefties with this active roster, are probably the best matchup in the league. I had mentioned to Adam, maybe outside of the Rockies right now without Story away from Coors Field, but against righties, it's an entirely different story. I mean, they're sixth in weighted on base average. They got a 342 WOBA against righties. Their ISO is at 201. That ranks sixth in the league. And they got a 106 WRC plus. So this is a team that can, as we know, and for a very good reason, has a lot of lefty power that can smoke right-handed pitching. I guess the one silver lining, if you're looking at Turnbull, is baseball's baseball, and the Rangers have the 8th highest strikeout rate against righties too. So Turnbull is one of those guys that has been able to get strikeouts this year, maybe not in an elite clip, but good enough. The issue here is, are you really going to go 9K on Spencer Turnbull, even if he has, a pretty solid 23.9% K rate? I think the price is just a little steep here, even though he's got the 4th highest K rate on the slate.
Yeah, he's only gone past 6 innings twice this season.
Yeah.
So he's
Oh,
been.
by the way, I'm sorry, 25.6% K rate. It is the 5th highest strikeout rate on the slate. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's basically all I had. I was seeing how deep he was going into games. Like, he's had decent performances, but I think this is just a little bit of an overprice for him. So I don't think I'm going to get to a lot of Turnbull here.
Yeah, probably not. How much interest do you have in hitters?
The Rangers are cheap besides Gallo, and like you mentioned, they just got a bunch of power. So I like them as a stack because just they have so much power from this left side. I'm not really interested in Detroit all that much. I think they're going to be a team that people go to because they've got a 4.6 implied total and they're dirt cheap. No one in their lineup above 3,900, and that's Castellanos. So they're going to be a stack that I think comes in overowned. And whenever Detroit's going to be chalk, I'm usually getting exposure to other teams instead.
So if you had to guess, so you have Peacock with the highest K rate on the slate, then Nola, then Wheeler, then there's someone else, then there's Spencer Turnbull. Who do you think has the fourth, without looking, who do you think has the fourth highest K rate on this slate?
You said there was Nola,
Nola or
Turnbull.
Peacock, Nola, Wheeler, then the mystery man, then Spencer Turnbull.
Is it your auto?
It's Chase Anderson.
Oh man,
I mean, to me, that's surprising.
what's he at?
Chase Anderson is at 24%.
Wow, I would not have guessed. I would have had him at like 20%.
Yeah, me too. I think that probably the fact that he's come out of the bullpen on several occasions might help, but still, he is getting some strikeouts. We'll get to that game, but first, let's talk about Minnesota and Tampa Bay. Martin Perez, you have Jalen Beeks as your probable long reliever here. So Perez has been decent enough this season, but all right, you know what? Let's just start with Perez because I want to get your take on this. He is not good. He is not bad. But ever since he started using that cutter at a high clip, it's given him more ability to miss bats, and his velocity's up, 2 ticks from where it was in the past. He's striking righties out at 20%, lefties out at 24.3%. And now he's going to face a Rays team that will have some lefties in the lineup and is also striking out at a very high clip against left-handed pitching, sitting at the third highest in the league at 25.8% with a 92 WRC plus. Obviously a risky spot, but do you have interest in Perez here against the Tampa Bay Rays?
I do have interest in Perez. So he's favored. There may be some weather concerns. I think it's supposed to rain around here. It's looking like it is. So this one might be in doubt, but assuming it can go, Perez at under 8K, a guy who, like you mentioned, not good, not bad, but definitely a better pitcher than what we've seen in years past.
Absolutely.
And, 10.7% swinging strike rate, above average chase rate. He's getting some decent first pitch strikes, and Tampa just strikes out a ton. So their lineup's already out. I don't know if that changes things. There's only one lefty, so it looks like they rolled out a pretty decent lineup. I'm not sure if any of these guys are huge strikeout targets besides Zunino. So maybe a little bit less interest than if they had like all these lefties in the lineup that they normally do.
Did you
like
say
Choi.
their lineup is out already? You're right, it is.
Yeah, like they had Choi and Meadows and those guys in there. Maybe it would be a little bit more appealing, but I still think Perez is going to be in play. What about you?
I think he's in play too. I think what'll be interesting is to see what the expected ownership on these Rays stacks is. That could make a difference. I wouldn't, because they have a 5-run implied total.
Yeah.
So it's not like they aren't expected to score some runs, right? Unless I read that wrong. No, they're at 5 right now. So pretty significant. Minnesota's at 5.1. But yeah, when I look at this Rays team, the lineup that we've got today, would have loved to have seen more lefties because his K rate is significantly higher against same-handed hitting. But I don't think it's the worst spot. Let me see. Is Adames not in the lineup? You said only Zunino strikes.
Adames is. He's batting fifth,
so he strikes out a lot. Zunino strikes out a lot. I don't know anything about this Brose guy or Brosu or whatever.
I've never seen that guy before.
Me neither. Sounds like a hockey player. Let's see. I just want to, like, Avisel Garcia is above 21% against lefties. I could go back to next year. Travis d'Arnaud, whatever. But yeah, definitely Adames and Zunino are 2 really high K rates. Outside of that, it definitely drops a bit. No Brandon Lau, no Meadows. And what sucks is you've got 8 righties in this lineup. That to me definitely takes the shine off. Yeah,
a little bit. But I mean, under 8K, I think you can still make a case for him here.
Sure.
He's not. This is not a good pitching slate. Like, I don't see a lot of guys I want to target. So I think someone who's shown a little bit of strikeout upside. He's priced appropriately, and he's going up, or he's a favorite. So those are the good things you can say about Martin Perez here, even if it's not an optimal lineup. Twins lineup
Yeah.
just came out as well.
What's that?
Twins lineup just came out as well.
Yeah, I have no interest in Jalen Beeks, but do you like any of these Twins, knowing that they're going up, they're going to see the bulk of their innings against the lefty?
I was gonna say Garver, but then I saw his price. 5,500 is ridiculous.
That's
for Garver.
outrageous.
I mean, that's just a broken algorithm thing. So maybe CJ Cron batting sixth for 4,400. But there's not, like, the Twins you can always stack, I think, just because they have so much power. But there's not like individual bats I'm crazy about outside of Cruz and CJ Cron.
I think Cruz is really good value here for sure.
Yeah.
He's not overpriced, batting third. That's pretty appealing for sure. I've noticed, by the way, that the Twins, a lot of times, if it's a bullpen game that they're going up against and the starter is a righty, it's like they run out lineups built for righties. So, yeah, I mean, I guess
that does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they do it. I mean, but I guess you want to get to him early. Who knows? But yeah, you got Max Kepler leading off. Yeah, it's weird, but they're also dealing with some injuries. I don't think it's a great hitting game. I don't think it's terrible. But on the other hand, we talk about Zunino and Adames. I do think that there is, I think there's some merit to looking at them as well, depending on where these prices are, because really Perez has done a good job of limiting power, but all of the power he's allowed has come to righties this year. And his swing and miss stuff is way down against righties than it is against lefties. So it's not crazy, but it would really just be, am I getting good prices on these guys? Zunino's 2,800, Adames is 3,400. I would actually venture to say that these guys, like that Zunino probably has decent ownership here.
Yeah. I was just looking at that. Actually, a lot of the highest owned guys in this game are Tampa hitters. So
yeah,
Avisel,
doesn't surprise me. That's what I was expecting, though, just because the run total and they're not expensive.
Right. Yeah, so maybe you're getting some leverage on an under 10% owned Martin Perez right now.
I like it. What do you think about Milwaukee and Seattle? Chase Anderson, like I said, 24% K rate this year. And then Mike Leake, who is, I mean, you want to talk about an anomaly. I have no idea what we're going to get from Mike Leake each time he goes out there, but I'm pretty certain that he's going to give up some home runs. He's allowed 22 home runs on the year, just monster power numbers allowed from Leake. But the interesting thing about Leake is it's like all power. The WOBA is not crazy high against him, but he's allowing 2.4 home runs per nine to righties, 1.6 to lefties, 7.8% swinging strike rate, which is dismal. A lot of hard contact. The list goes on about Mike Leake. This is such a tough and brutal spot for Leake at Miller Park against the Brewers.
Yeah, absolutely love the Brewers here. And they're not even that priced up. So that's kind of annoying because I've been playing when they're super priced up and probably worse matchups. And now it looks like they're going to have a bunch of ownership, assuming it's Grandal and Thaves and Shaw, who's 2,700. So these guys are going to be heavy targets of mine. They're going to be heavy targets of everyone. Leak can be really frustrating at times, but he does give up a ton of power. And this is just like maybe as bad of a matchup as you can get for a guy like Leak, who doesn't walk anyone. Everything's in play. And a bunch of good hitters on the Brewers 1 through 7, really.
Who do you like most?
Well, so Yelich, obviously number one, but then probably Moustakas and Grandal next. Kane is questionable to be in, but the guy I'm going to try to leave off, oddly enough, is probably Shaw of my Brewer stacks, because if he's batting sixth or even higher in the order or something like that, he's just going to be a guy that the optimizer puts in no matter what. Right now, we've got him at almost 30% ownership for a guy batting seventh. That's only going to go up if he gets moved up in the order or someone's out, like Kane. So he'd probably be the last guy. I'd put Thames ahead of him. I'd probably put the righties, Braun and Kane, if he's in, ahead of him as well.
I don't disagree with that. And Shaw's not just going to be in Brewer stacks. He's going to be used as a one-off too, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about Chase Anderson? Does Chase Anderson stand out to you as a decent mid-range option here, knowing that he can get strikeouts? Last year, he gave up almost all of his home runs at Miller Park, so it is an issue. But is there anything about this Seattle lineup that's got you interested in Anderson?
It's just not a great lineup now that they've kind of shipped away a couple of their best hitters. Looking at their active roster right now, just under 25% K rate versus righties. For the season, for the Mariners, still some power. You've got Vogelbach and Narvaez, Domingo Santana. Did you know that he's like leading the league in RBIs right now? I think I saw that last night on the Twins broadcast.
Domingo Santana is?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Santana.
Wow.
Let me check on this, so I'm not lying. But I'm pretty sure he had like 60-some RBIs, which is...
He has 60. Wow.
Yeah. I just saw that on a graphic.
He has 17 home runs and 18 doubles already.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like, I knew he had been useful for DFS, but that's one of those things I was talking about with Adam. Like, we just never pay attention to what's actually happening, like the surface stuff and like teams' records. Like, I have no clue what a lot of these teams' records are. I just know, like, all right, is this team good? Is this team middle of the road? Is this team, terrible, like the Orioles or something like that? But I never pay attention to that kind of stuff. So it's weird when you watch a broadcast and you're just surprised by that.
So let me ask, I agree with you. Let me ask you this. Do you remember when Domingo Santana was called up for the first time?
Yeah, didn't he strike out like 20 straight times or something?
So he had 18 plate appearances in 2000. I still remember this because I was amazed by it. He had 18 plate appearances in 2014 in the whole season. And he struck out 14 times. But his first two, almost every start when he came up was he'd strike out at every plate appearance or almost every plate appearance, and he finished with I think it was 0 hits. He had 1 RBI, but he went 0 for 18 with 14 Ks, and now he leads the league in RBIs. Isn't baseball funny?
Yeah, I mean, looks like he's rebounded pretty well from those early struggles.
It sure does, man. It's crazy, really crazy. But what else? You have any other thoughts on this one, and any other interest in maybe Mariner bats? Anything that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I have interest in Mariners like the power bats for sure. So Santana, Vogelbach, and Narvaez, they're priced up pretty high on DraftKings, 53, 47, and 44, and they get you a ton of leverage. The one thing I wanted to check on was, do you know if Anderson struggles holding runners or if he's even around average? Because Malik Smith leading off for 4,900. I could see this going pretty poorly for Anderson. So I don't mind paying up for Seattle here. It's not like they have like a 3 implied total. It's 4.3. It's a good park and a guy that struggles at home with power.
So swipe rate above average. He's been, oh, wow. Not great.
Nice.
Not great. That's a baseball prospectus stat, which is pretty useful because it's not judging from everyone who's gotten there safely, but the chances that they're going to get there safely. And then there's takeoff rate above average. I don't think he's great in that area either. But honestly, throughout his career, he's always been pretty decent. So I would venture to say that it's not. Malik Smith is going to run anyway, so I'm not sure it even matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Aaron Nola somehow only allowed 3 stolen bases this year. It does go to show you the impact that JT Realmuto's had behind the plate, man.
For sure.
Like, I don't buy into like catchers having a huge deal with stolen bases unless you're like Realmuto and you're just an animal behind the dish.
Yeah, like Yadi Molina for so many years.
Yeah, they were just afraid to run on Molina.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even go. It's crazy. All right, let's keep it going then. We've got Houston and Pittsburgh. On the mound for the Houston Astros is Brad Peacock. Joe Musgrove for the Pirates. The lowest implied total on this 6-game slate is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're at 4 runs. Not only that, but Peacock is a 197 favorite here. So big time favorite at home against Pittsburgh. I'm a fan of Peacock, but I this price tag is really tough for me to get to, especially because against lefties, he's a below average pitcher. And I just don't know how many righties we're going to get in this lineup and if it's going to be enough for me to really have interest in Peacock at that price. What about you?
Yeah, so I haven't taken a look at Peacock's ownership. Yeah, third highest owned pitcher right now on the slate behind Anderson and Nola. Um, I just don't think it's like I don't think a lot of guys have good matchups against Pittsburgh. They don't strike out a ton. He's probably going to see 7 lefties here. No pitcher spot because they're in the AL, so that's an extra bump down to Pittsburgh as a matchup. And he just doesn't strike out lefties at nearly the rate he does versus righties. So just over 20% versus lefties for Peacock this season. Looking at the active roster for Pittsburgh, they are bottom 3 in the MLB at 18.1% versus right-handed pitching. So just not a really favorable matchup. Maybe if he was going to be lower owned or one of the lower owned guys on the slate, you would look to him. But yeah, not a really fun matchup unless I'm just missing something. Do you like him here?
No, I don't think you're missing anything. As a matter of fact, it's not the greatest spot. Pittsburgh does not strike out at a high rate. They might not be the greatest team in baseball, but they're just, like you said, they just really very rarely make for a good matchup. They've got the 3rd lowest K rate against righties this season. I expect them to run out at least enough lefties to make this difficult. And Josh Bell, a few of these other guys can hit well. No, I don't. If Peacock was, the same price as, or not even the same price, but he was like low 8K, maybe mid 8K, I'd be more inclined to do it. But at this rate, I'd rather just pay up for Nola.
Yeah, I think I would too. So, like we talked about Nola, or like, yeah, it's like an okay spot, but the more you go along this slate, it's like he's really the only guy you kind of feel good at. So you're paying a premium, but it makes sense when you look at the context of the slate.
Right. The more you go along, the more you realize that it makes sense why he's very popular.
Yep.
The other side of this one, you've got yourself Mr. Musgrove coming off a really, really impressive start against the San Diego Padres. Houston ain't the Padres, though, Jake. They've got the lowest K rate in the league on their active roster versus righties. 116 WRC plus when facing right-handed pitching. To no one's surprise, that ranks top 5 in the league. And they've been rolling without Springer, without Altuve, without Correa. Now you've got a healthy George Springer. You've got a healthy Jose Altuve. They're starting to get healthier. They don't have Correa yet. They don't have like a Ledmys Diaz, but this is such a dangerous team.
Yeah, getting healthy, this Astros team is super scary when you go Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, add in Alvarez, Gurriel's your 6th hitter, Reddick's your 7th hitter. It's just super deep. And they still don't have Correa back, which is a guy I keep forgetting about. So Musgrove is 5,300. I'm actually interested to see how much he pops up for me, if at all, because I want to pay up for expensive bats. I want to pay up for like Yelich. But I don't even know if he's going to be that necessary on this slate unless you're trying to go to like an Atlanta or something like that, which makes some sense. But $5,300 pitcher that's fully stretched out probably will get at least some of Musgrove. Terrible matchup, as you mentioned. I'm hoping we see a different Houston lineup. Maybe one or two of these guys is out of the lineup that makes you feel better about $5,300 Musgrove. But not going to be excited about playing him here. But he's $5,300, so I'm going to play some of Musgrove. What about you?
Yeah, we talk about a lot like the idea of just rostering cheap pitchers because they're cheap. I get it. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want to overstate how horrible of a matchup this is, mainly because even if Musgrove goes out there and doesn't allow runs, I don't know where the Ks are going to come from. So I see it. I get it. He's super cheap, but I don't feel comfortable at all with Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for strikeouts from guys like Chirinos, Fizan, Alvarez,
Right.
but everyone in this lineup is really a scary matchup for a guy like Musgrove. So it's tough. You just kind of need him to survive 5 or 6 innings, which it's baseball. Things can happen, and he's going to have low ownership. So if he allows me to fit in some bats, I'm okay with it. Would not be going crazy and playing like 40 or 50% of them or something like that.
Right now he's 17% on DraftKings. So
Yeah. I mean, if I get to.
Urado at 8%.
What's that?
Ariel Urado is at 8%,
Yeah.
but he's also more expensive
Mhm.
than Musgrove. So like I don't think Urado is a crazy option at all, just based on the matchup and ownership.
Mhm.
I get the Musgrove thing. It's just like if I'm playing him, I'm not going to feel good about it.
For sure.
Bryce Wilson, Tyler Chatwood, Atlanta Braves, Chicago Cubs. The Braves are sitting here with a run total of, well, actually, we'll go backwards. So Bryce Wilson, I I'm not necessarily sure how he's going to fare here, but 5.2 runs for the Chicago Cubs and for the Atlanta Braves 4.9. Do we have any wind here, Jake?
Looks like a crosswind, so
Okay, so
neutral.
not significant.
Yeah.
Both of these pitchers I have zero interest in. Are you feeling any different?
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting to either of these guys. Not Wilson for sure for 8,600. Chatwood, basically the same thing I said for Musgrove. Um, but Chatwood, I think he only went. Let's see
He
how
threw
many.
73 pitches, 4 innings.
Okay, 73. I mean, maybe you give him 80. Uh, but it's still a really bad strikeout matchup, and I think Chatwood is significantly a worse pitcher than Musgrove, at least as a starter. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be necessary for me. 5.3 implied total against him in Wrigley. He's got walk issues. The Braves are really good. So I'm more interested in paying up for some Braves bats here. Acuna, Freddie Freeman, one of my favorite bats on the entire slate. And I really like Albies because people aren't playing him. He's priced up in the 7 or 8 hole. But he's also projecting out really well despite having a poor lineup spot. So I like the Braves stack quite a bit. They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's funny because Chatwood for so long had been terrible against lefties. This year, it's a small sample, but he hasn't allowed a lot of power. Righties have tuned him up pretty good, but he just gets no strikeouts against lefties. He will get ground balls, but so many balls are going to be put in play. Uh, it's definitely an interesting spot here for the Braves. Interesting that their total is only 4.9, and Chicago, excuse me, actually has a higher total. What are your thoughts on the Cubs against Bryce Wilson, who, has pitched what? Let's see, I think two starts this season. He's faced 20 total or two outings. He's faced 20 total batters. So we really don't have a whole lot on Bryce Wilson to go off of, at least not at the major league level.
Yeah, I don't. That's what I was gonna say. There's not a big sample of him at the major league level. I'm trying to pull up his minor league stuff right now to see if we can justify the $8,600 price tag. So he's out of play for me. I think
Oh, no question.
there's
But I'm
there's no
talking
chance I'm
about
getting him.
Cubs bats here.
Right, right. They're really cheap just for their implied total. You get Schwarber leading off at 3,600 versus a righty. I don't really understand what that's about. But then you go down the lineup and you've got Rizzo for 4,600, Chris Bryant 4,600 dual position eligibility, Cargo at 26, assuming he's in. So the Cubs are going to be another team, probably like Detroit, that goes a little bit over owned because they're going to pop up as a good value in optimizers. That being said, I'd be more comfortable playing them as value bats than a team like Detroit just because a ton of better hitters. They're priced up at least a little bit more. You've got some kind of expensive pieces like Baez and Contreras at 46. But yeah, they make for a perfectly fine stack. I think I'm just more on Atlanta if I'm going to one team in this game.
Okay. And I'm with you on Freddie Freeman. Really, really appealing spot for Freeman here at Wrigley. Well, that'll do it for the early slate, huh?
Yeah, a little 6 gamer.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making a lineup by hand, who are the first two pitchers in your lineup?
Man, it's probably Nola and maybe Urado. Kind of like that combo. I think that's going to allow me some pretty quality bats. and then go Braves stack or maybe Brewers.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you here. Urado, it's interesting because he's got a 20% K rate against righties. It's obviously not good, but in that same breath, he's also cheap, and the Tigers aren't good either. So, yeah, he allows some power. I get that, but man, against somebody asked me if I could stop praising Schwarber and his price because he's been average lately. I don't believe I ever actually mentioned Schwarber.
I mean, lately, what does that mean? Like he
Yeah.
historically it hits righties really well, and he's 3,600 and he's leading off.
Yeah, I didn't mention him, and I'm ashamed of myself for not doing so because Kyle Schwarber at 3,600 is a top play on this slate.
Of course.
Sure he's been pedestrian, but that's baseball, man. The guy's got a 200 plus career ISO versus righties. He can smoke them, and he bats towards the top of the order. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Dante. I cannot stop talking about him. Hell, I had moved on already. I was moving on to the main slate, and now you got me right back on to talking about Schwarber.
Yeah. I mean, he's been average lately, but there's guys that are bad for weeks at a time, and
Oh yeah,
still play him as chalk.
dude, look at the Phillies' last 3 games. Right, they've been pouring in runs. They had lost 6 straight, got swept by the Marlins at Citizens Bank Park, and we're averaging like 2 runs a game. So it's just baseball has wild swings. It's 162 games, and really, whenever you get somebody that's batting in a favorable spot, that's cheap, uh, that has a run total of 5, you'd be wise not to second guess it.
Yeah. I mean, the Brewers just got shut down by Marco Gonzalez and was it LeBlanc yesterday?
Yeah.
And now they face Mike Leake, so you could easily see them struggle 3 games in a row against 3 not good pitchers. It
Yep.
happens all the time.
Yep. And then come out and light Jacob DeGrom up for
Exactly.
10 runs.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jake, let's hit the 4 games here and then we'll head out. Of course, if you guys didn't know, Deeper Dive is coming up tonight, 5 o'clock Eastern time. That'll be Adam and Josh. I'm going to the FSGA to do a
Nice.
Awesome Radio for
Yeah,
Sirius.
you're meeting up with Alex, right?
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah, and Tom and my boy Ben Ross is going to be there.
Nice.
Our brilliant golf guy. So yeah, it'll be a good time, man. I'm going to drive down this afternoon, and Josh is going to help it out. But yeah, we get that, and then is it you and Spags on Live Before Lock?
Yes. Yep.
So you and Chris Spags, Jake and Chris Spags on Live Before Lock. We got plenty of broadcasts coming up throughout the show or throughout the day. If you don't just want to watch the YouTube stuff, I mean, hey, it's free. You do you. We're going to keep pumping it out and putting as good as content out as we possibly can. But if you wanted to check out awesomeo.com, Awesomeo Plus memberships for the ownership projections, the player projections that we talk about every day, the top stack tool, the fantasy cruncher add-on, the lineup builder, the deep dive articles from myself and Adam, Jake's articles, Josh's, and basically content, projections, ownership, all that for every sport, not just baseball. So we got you covered in really every facet of the DFS space. Use the code when you sign up, MLB Strategy, all one word, MLB Strategy, and you'll get 50% off your first month. So right off the top, 50% off your first month. Use the promo code MLB Strategy. The tools on the site are legitimately the tools that Alex Baker, Awesomeo himself, uses. Not just something that he put out there and then has some secret weapons on the side. He uses all of those. So I think the value is self-evident by looking at his results. So use the promo code MLB Strategy when you sign up, and we'll hopefully see you over there. All right, 4 games, Jake. We've got Strasburg and Bueller and Griffin Canning towards the top. God, Bueller's cheap, but it is a Coors Field day. We'll get to that game when we get there, but we'll start with Miami and Washington. The Miami Marlins are running out Steven Strasburg, Sandy Alcantara for the Miami Marlins. And your run totals for this one, no surprise to anyone. The Marlins are at 3.1. They're big dogs and on the road. And the Nationals, minus 200, 4.5 run total. But, dude, they're minus 200 on the road.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, so Strasburg, this is kind of where I would like to like shop around with Strasburg's price. He's almost 12K on DraftKings. On FanDuel, let's see where he's at. 10-4. So I like that quite a bit more, especially on a one pitcher site. It is a Coors slate, so it's going to be tricky, but I think by far the best play on the slate, just from a raw points perspective, I would expect to see him grade out as a decent value on FanDuel. But like you look at Yahoo too, he's under $50. And even if you're going to Coors here, you can fit in quite a few Dodgers and Rockies bats if you wanted to stack up Coors with Strasburg. So I think over there he makes a ton of sense at $49, same price as Griffin Canning, who's going to be another guy that people flock to a little bit. But yeah,
That's just stupid.
just wanted to point out Strasburg's price. I noticed that this morning. So play him over there. I don't really know what else to say. It's going to be more difficult on DraftKings because I want to pay up for so many of these Coors bats, specifically the Dodgers. So I want to get as much Strasburg in as possible. Where do we have his ownership right now? Man, he's not even the highest owned pitcher.
What's up?
He's not even the highest owned pitcher on DraftKings right now for this main
Yeah,
slate.
that is it. Alex Young,
It is
Tyler
okay.
Beatty.
Wow, yeah. Beatty, Canning, Young, then Strasburg. No, then Bueller,
No, then
Strasburg.
Bueller.
So fifth highest owned, not
Wow.
even in the top half.
Keep in mind though, he's 29 right now, 29%. Bueller's 30, Young's 31, Canning's 32. So they're all like, but still, no, I agree. I would have, but like you said, the Coors stuff has a lot to do with it. We'll get there's actually a really interesting slate. So
Yeah, I like how it sets up.
yeah, we'll get to a couple of interesting points when we do, but I guess first we'll close this game out. I really do like Strasburg. I get that he's expensive, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to try to find ways to get him into my lineup. And here's why. I'm not opposed to getting some Walker Bueller at Coors Field. He's a phenomenal pitcher. I mean, that last start was outrageous, 53 DraftKings points. He dropped 41 about 3 weeks back, 34, 26. He's been insanely good. But Strasburg on a start in a spot like this could break this, could just burn the slate up against Miami with, monster strikeouts super deep into the game. So I think it's something to consider, just that this matchup against the worst team in baseball versus righties with one of the highest K rates in the league is as good as it gets if you're Steven Strasburg today.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to get any Alcantara, and I don't see myself getting to him. He's like 1K too expensive, I think, on this slate. Because I would probably be using him as an SP1 with one of these cheaper guys. And, I mean, maybe I get to a couple shares of him, but really tough matchup. And I don't think he's got quite the strikeout stuff that, like, a Zach Gallen does. And he's also more expensive than he was yesterday. And there's more expensive bats to pay up for on this shorter slate. So, probably not going to get to much Alcantara. And then I would guess I'm going to be a little underweight on Strasburg. But I guess we'll see when we get closer to lock. But you'd love to have as much as possible, I think.
Do you have any interest in hitters?
Soto at 4,900. And that's my main guy really in this game.
All right. I agree. There's not much else here that I like. Let's keep it going then, because this slate only gets more interesting. Dodgers are coming to Coors Field to face the Rockies. You've got Peter Lambert, who had a really good start against the Cubs in his debut, and then a pretty decent one against the Cubs in his second start, and then he got lit up by the Padres, and then 3 runs in 5 innings against the Dodgers in LA. Now he's going up against the Dodgers at Coors. My guess is this doesn't end particularly well for him. So far, he's faced 36 lefties. He's allowing a 407 WOBA, 343 ISO, and he has a 1.7 WHIP. Now, it's funny because his xFIP's like 379, but he's been smoked for hard contact. He's not getting ground balls, and now he's got to go up against a stable of power lefties and Bellinger and Jock Peterson and Max Muncy. Uh, how I don't know how he escapes this one with a pulse.
Yeah, really tough to imagine him getting through like 5 innings here unscathed. Um, I mean, it looks like it should just be bombs away for all these Dodgers. So the only bad part about the Dodgers is that you probably can't get in a lot of Strasburg on DraftKings. On other sites,
Yeah.
you may be able to work it a little bit. But when you go 54, 5K, 59, 56, 53 for 5 out of your 8 total hitters, that's, you're just not going to be able to pay up for pitching. And that's fine. I think I'm okay with that. When the top stack tool comes out, I think they're going to come in under owned. Like they're going to be highly owned, but they're not going to be owned to their chances of being the top stack on this slate. We have them right now at a 7.2 implied total. So those are Alex's totals. That's one of the higher ones we've seen outside of the Yankees a couple days ago, and maybe a couple other times where we had a Coors slate, maybe Baltimore and Coors. But yeah, it's just not an enviable spot here for Lambert. I want as many Dodgers as I can possibly fit in my 150.
Yep, I would think so as well. 6 days ago, Chris Taylor was 3,200 on DraftKings. Now he's 5,300. I mean,
He's hit a couple home runs in that time, I think, but it's
yeah,
not like he's been amazing.
yeah, he's had some really solid games,
Yeah.
which is funny because earlier in the year he was garbage.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jock 54, Bellinger 59, which by the way, I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup. He had a mild case of left knee tendonitis. So keep an eye out for that. It could water the lineup down, but maybe you get somebody cheaper in his stead. But the problem is, who's it going to be? I mean, Verdugo's 5K, Kike Hernandez 4,800, Taylor 53, Peterson 54, Bellinger 59. Seager's on the IL, Turner 49, Muncy 56. They are a very expensive team, but
Yeah.
it's an enviable spot for this Dodger team. So I think, they're obviously your top option here. What do you make of Buehler and these Rocky bats? Because Buehler has been lights out.
I like playing Bueller as kind of the SP1. If you're missing bats in Coors, the weather doesn't matter that much. Are you familiar with his repertoire? Does he throw? He doesn't throw like a looping curve. He's like a fireballer, right?
Buehler throws the high. Well, let me pull it up.
Okay. I know he's got a really good fastball.
Yeah, but I swore he paired that with. I just want to be sure. I swear he paired it with relatively heavy curve and slider usage. Yeah. So okay, the fastball he throws a ton. He's throwing that 57% of the time because he throws, what is it? It's 96, 97 miles per hour. It's a high 90 fastball. It's a filthy pitch with a lot of movement. The curveball, 12% of the time. Slider, 13% of the time. Cutter, 12%. So he's definitely mixed it up. If you remember when he came into the league, he was purely fastball curveball. And that fastball just set the curveball up so nice. Mm-hmm. But then he started throwing the cutter. And he's definitely mixed it up a lot more than you would have thought. So you would hope. Look, when you throw this many pitches and you're not reliant on the curve, I'm not too worried about it. He throws it 13% of the time against lefties. He's going to face a lot of them, but the cutter shouldn't be a big issue, and the fastball will still be fast. Just the big thing here is Walker Buehler in another park should be like 11.5 with the way he's pitched. So it's such a huge discount that I'm just willing to roll the dice.
I am too. 8,900, really solid price with the Coors factor worked into it.
And Story's out of the lineup, which is a huge deal. Sure, it might be a less strikeout, one or two fewer strikeouts, but I mean, you're replacing him with a legitimate replacement level player or lower.
Yeah. I mean, if Garrett Hampson's going to be in the lineup, it looks like a fine matchup. It's just Coors that you're a little bit worried about, but that's baked into the price. So I like Buehler as my SP1, especially with Dodger stacks. And I was trying to play around and see if I can get a 5-man in. it's really difficult to do that with the Dodgers. So that's why you're seeing Beatty and Alex Young be really chalky right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's talk about that game.
Okay.
Unless you have any interest in Colorado bats. The problem is they're not really that cheap. Like Blackman's still super expensive. I guess Arenado's 5,100 on DraftKings, which is manageable, but
Yeah, I
not,
mean,
not huge on him.
I don't,
Murphy's.
yeah, I don't see much on the the Rockies that I'm crazy about. They're really priced up against Bueller, which is not a super fun thing to think about rostering.
Yeah, like Murphy's cheap, McMahon's not expensive, but that's because Bueller's really damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. San Francisco and Arizona. How about this one? We've got Alex Young and Tyler Beatty. So Young at AAA this year, 54 and two-third innings. He has a 24.8% K rate. He's walking 10% of batters, though. A 1.68 whip. Uh, some of these numbers are a little bit alarming. A 6.09 ERA. Now his xFIP is only 4.3, so it looks like he's been a little bit unlucky. His BABIP is through the roof. His strand rate is way lower than it should be. He's gotten ground balls. He is a lefty. Honestly, when it comes to Alex Young, I know about him what I've just looked up, and it usually gives you a good idea of what you can expect. But this slate, like if you're playing Strasburg, you're going to need someone that's inexpensive. And it's not like Tyler Beatty is some outright stud. So if you're going to Alex Young over Beatty, I honestly don't think it's the craziest idea, especially given the matchup. I mean, it's a San Francisco team that in pretty much every respect is dog shit. So, and all of these righties like Longoria and Posey, so many of them. The only one is Kevin Pillar, who's actually hit lefties relatively well this season. Outside of him, it's been ugly. So they got a 13th highest K rate against lefties. That's not, horrible. It's not great, but they have a 72 WRC plus.
So bad. I was just looking at that actually right as you said it. 130 ISO versus
Garbage.
lefties, 291 on base percentage. I mean,
278 WOBA.
yeah, maybe the strikeouts won't be there, but this seems like a spot where.
Well, 23% is not awful. It's like league average. So
Right.
I don't think it's crazy. It's a good match. Oh, and what about the park?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, you understand why these two guys are really popular at the first round of ownership on this slate, because people want to get in these expensive bats and Coors, and they're kind of the only way you can do it, because it's not like Alcantara is priced down at 6K or something like that. These are the two cheap pitchers that people are going to go to, and I think these are the two guys that I'm going to go to as well. I don't really see a need to get that different. Like, maybe you play Tanner Anderson just purely as a pivot, but that's a terrible strikeout matchup. At least these two guys have okay strikeout matchups and a way better park against worse teams. The Angels are a pretty scary team, I think, overall. So I'm playing these two guys. It feels like a cop-out. Like, I think I like Beatty a little bit more than Alex Young. But, yeah, I would imagine I'm going to be around the field or over on both of these guys just because I'm trying to fit in so many Dodgers bats.
Okay. No, I'm with you. Although I oddly think I might like Alex Young a little bit more, but only because this Diamondbacks team is a very, very low strikeout rate against righties. I'm pretty sure it's like bottom 6 or 7 in the league. Last I looked, let's see, 1, 2. Yeah, 6 low is 20.9%. They're not particularly good. That's pretty understandable. But what do they have? Like a bottom 10 WRC plus. So I think, honestly, it's not that I like one more than the other. I just don't have a huge lean on one of them over the other.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I wouldn't say, like, you have to play Beatty over Alex Young, but I thought Beatty was actually a bigger favorite when I looked at this earlier, but
isn't it like minus 106
yeah,
or something?
Pick 'em basically right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly, I don't think it's the craziest idea. Like, I was wondering what type of ownership we would see on giant bats because, they're generally always very cheap, not the great park, so on and so forth. But because the ownership on Young is going to be where it is, my guess is that these giant bats will be very inexpensive as well. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I actually think some of these giant bats are interesting. Kevin Pillar, Evan Longoria are really, really cheap. Like I said, Buster Posey's been disappointing, but he's getting close to minimum salary. Tyler Austin, they do have some righty power, or just cheap righties, I should say. Um, if I'm playing Strasburg, one of the ways to get Dodgers in, I think, could be to go to some of these San Fran righties.
Yeah, I mean, I think either side, like you can almost make a case for any team on a 4-game
Sure.
slate, but when you factor in the ownership against both of these guys, if you can knock out one of the cheap chalk pitchers while also playing, like if you're playing the Dodgers and you wanted to go like San Francisco Fillers or something like that, um, you're also getting leverage while playing a chalky team, which I kind of like the idea of. Giants, obviously
Or
a little
just
bit
way
cheaper.
cheaper.
Yeah,
That's the only
they're
thing.
cheaper. Um, so they're going to be a team that probably people go to as fillers with guys like Belt at 3,600. He really sticks out, even lefty lefty. Um, Posey is probably going to be popular. Like he's always popular. It seems like,
Yeah.
yeah, almost 30% right now. So I'll be trying to maybe get away from that. But Longoria against the lefty, he can still hit lefties 3,400. There's some pretty decent values, I think, on the Giants side.
Kevin Pillar's hit lefties really well this season, even since he's come to San Francisco, or at least for power. He's got 4 home runs against them, and a 208 ISO, which for him is significant, right? Weighted on base average is trash. WRC plus is garbage, but at least he's had some pop, which is really all I care about. And he only strikes out 9% of the time against them. So Pillar's not a terrible option. Really, again, it's just coming down to how do I get Dodger bats in there, but I guess the chalk construction is probably going to be like, okay, let me get Strasburg. Let me see how many Dodgers I can get and work around that.
Yep.
And
Makes
then
sense.
if they play the Diamondbacks or they play San Francisco, San Francisco, they'll probably play that pitcher on the team. If they're playing San Francisco, they'll probably play Tyler Beede. Like, simple as that.
Right.
So I do think this is kind of a tough one. All right, last one, Jake. LA Angels, Oakland Athletics, Griffin Canning, Tanner Anderson. Griffin Canning has a monster swinging strike rate this year. It's usually the highest on most slates, which is pretty remarkable. But he definitely isn't impervious to allowing runs. He's got a 15% swinging strike rate. It is the highest on this slate. I think it'd be the highest on if you combine these slates. 32.3% called plus swinging strikes. He does allow some pop, though, to lefties and to righties alike. But do you have interest here against Oakland, a team that doesn't strike out a lot, even though Canning has done a fair job of getting strikeouts?
Yeah, I think Canning's fine. His ownership might creep up throughout the day.
It's
15.
already at 32%.
Yeah, I think he might emerge as like more popular than Bueller. You might see that gap even
Think so?
wider. Yeah, I just think he's got kind of like on paper the clearest shot at being a solid pitcher in this mid range. You're probably not going to Alcantara, and Bueller's in Coors, so people will talk themselves out of that probably. You're seeing a full run favorite right here for Canning, minus 156, and it's in a somewhat favorable pitching park or neutral at worst. So I don't know. I think people will go to him more. I just usually don't look to get super different at pitching on these slates. I almost always agree with the chalk, or at least I understand it. So I get why he's popular. Misses bats with the best of them. Has some issues going deep into games, so that might be one thing that might get me off of him and just go really heavy on Bueller and go underweight on Canning. I could see myself doing that by the time we get to lock. But he does make sense even with the tough strikeout matchup against Oakland.
He does. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I still like Bueller better, though.
I think I do too right now.
Like, where do you think on the year the Rockies rank in WRC plus against righties?
It's got like I bet they're around 80 right?
Where do you think they rank?
That's probably bottom five,
Yeah, they rank
26.
29th. Isn't
That's
that
tough.
crazy?
Yeah.
I mean,
Were they that bad last year? I remember targeting them outside of Coors, especially, but I don't remember them being like. I thought they were closer to average WRC plus last season versus
I
righties.
thought so as well. I know their K rate was like way higher outside of Coors Field, but I didn't think they were that much of a
Right.
disaster.
Neither did I.
Um, yeah, it's pretty insane, really. They have the 15th or 14th highest K rate against righties on the season, so nothing crazy. But yeah, they're not drawing walks. They just an 82 WRC plus. So you were right there.
Man.
It's pretty crazy, man. So I only say that because I definitely believe that Bueller can throw a really nice game. He could get rocked, but I also believe that you could see some really solid numbers from him.
Yeah.
And might sound weird, but I think his upside's actually higher than Canning, even though Canning's not at Coors Field.
I think so too. I mean, Coors is the only thing scaring you off of Bueller. It's not his
Of
price.
course.
It's
Dude, if this was not at Coors, I'd have Bueller in literally every
yeah,
lineup.
I think I would too. Even if he was 75% owned, I think I would be playing Bueller like
At
near
8,900?
Yeah.
There's no way you couldn't.
Yeah.
It just isn't. I mean, some hyperbole there, but you'd have 70, 80% of the guy
Right.
for sure.
No.
All right. Any bats here, Jake? You want to round this out? Unless you're interested in Tanner Anderson. I'm not, but maybe you know something I don't.
No, nothing on Tanner Anderson for me. Trout is super expensive, but if you can fit him in, you will probably go under-owned on this slate because you've got these massively priced bats. For LA, Otani is my favorite guy here at 4,700 on DK. Has his price come up on Yahoo? I think he was maybe around, still at $18 on Yahoo, so I think that's really nice value over there as well. And then I just noticed LA's getting back Andrelton Simmons. He's questionable, possibly. Could be back.
So even less strikeouts now.
I mean, he's a guy that, like, I think he's under 10% versus both righties and lefties over the last couple of years. So you can't really make a case for Anderson here. More expensive than both of these other guys. Worst park, going up against a team that, you know, the K upside is non-existent. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the Angel bats here. Obviously, I don't think there's any reason not to have interest. Lefties and righties alike, but yeah, particularly guys like Mike Trout, obviously, and Shohei Ohtani. You know, if Goodwin happens to be in the lineup, like batting in the middle, I have no issues with that. Tanner Anderson has a 7.7% swinging strike rate, 22% called plus swinging strikes. That is just disgustingly bad. I don't buy into it, and the biggest reason is just he's not going to miss enough bats. Angels are tied with the Brewers for the lowest K rate in the league versus righties. I mean, they're going to put balls in play. Angel Stadium has become friendlier for power, particularly right-handed or left-handed power over the last year. It just seems like a really, really difficult spot for Tanner Anderson not to get smashed.
Yeah. I'm kind of kidding when I say this, but kind of not. Is there like a 5K reliever we could play for one of these teams at like no ownership that might get 3 or 4 innings if a pitcher gets lit up early? Like, because this is the kind of slate where you'd maybe want to do that, because all of these cheap pitchers, well, the 2 ones that you actually want to play, Young and Beatty, are getting a ton of ownership. They're not good pitchers. Like, I wonder if by the time we get to the deeper dive, if Adam's got like some reliever that he found that might get 2 to 4 innings or something like that.
It's possible, but like, it's hard for me to figure out where. Like, if Tanner Anderson gets knocked around, do you want a reliever against the Angels? Do I want Alex Young and Beatty? Maybe someone comes out of the pen there, but neither of those offenses are really efficient enough to beat somebody up. That I don't know where it would be is my thing.
Right. It would probably have to be in that San Francisco game.
Right. And that would be us relying on terrible teams to knock a pitcher out of the game.
Yeah. Something to think about at least. Maybe I'll do some research and see if there might be a guy that's rested that could go a few innings if something crazy happened early. But
just play Peter Lambert, man.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about him. You can't play. I don't think you can play him.
No, I don't.
The only reason you would be playing a $4,700 pitcher on the slate would be to like get in Strasburg plus the Dodgers, but then you're going up against your pitcher. So
here's the only argument I'd make. is if Bellinger is out and like another guy that is actually good isn't in the lineup.
Sure.
You know, I don't know why it would be, but like if a Turner and a Muncy or Jot, like if Peterson, because he's hurt or at least dealing with a minor injury, and maybe one more guy was out, then you might be able to twist my arm.
Yeah. Maybe Bellinger pulled something when he gets attacked by these women that are running out on the field or something. Maybe he's got to sit. They want to protect him.
Man. Hey, hit us with a thumbs up and like the video if you like what we do here and you want to help support us, because it does help us a lot and we greatly appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up, hit the notification bell so you always, or subscribe, hit the notification bell so you always know when we're going to drop new content all day, every day here at the Awesome-O channel, man. So it's an easy way to support us if you're not signing up. And if you are signing up at awesomeo.com, use MLB strategy, one word, to get 50% off your first month of membership. Jake, you got anything before we head out for the day?
No, these are fun to talk about. I'm excited to play a couple of these shorter slates. So we'll be getting my early lineups in and then gearing up for live before lock. Have fun at is it FSGA?
Now it is, yeah.
Okay, so they changed it because last year I went not
FSTA.
Yeah, it was FSTA. Okay. Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks, man. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so, I'm sure you won't miss Tom. Also, have you ever met Tom?
Not in person.
He's like 8 feet tall.
I heard he's really tall.
You won't have trouble finding Tom.
That's great.
Yeah, but yeah, they're cool dudes to hang out with, so you'll have fun.
So before we head out, who is the top raw fantasy pitcher on this 4-game slate that isn't Strasburg, that isn't Bueller, and isn't Canning? Making your life easy here.
Beatty, I guess I would have to say right now, which is disgusting because he's 50% right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what you'd say because that's why you would even consider it a relief pitcher.
Yeah, it's gross.
I'll go Alex Young just because. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's the Giants. You never know what'll happen. But I think Giant righties are kind of interesting. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. I'll be back on Monday. You can catch me on Sirius XM Fantasy, though. Sirius 210 XM87 tomorrow from 4 to 5, live at the FSGA. Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern with my boy Manny Laura. What a good show, and I think you'll enjoy it. Jake, you'll be on tonight, live before lock with Spags, and I would imagine tomorrow as well.
Oh, yeah, and Saturday. So
and
you guys
Saturday.
Get a lot of me this weekend.
You got the deeper dive coming up. Josh and Adam will lead you into live before lock today and tomorrow. We've got content, shows, articles, videos, tools all throughout the weekend as well, right here on the YouTube channel and on awesomeo.com. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow on the MLB Strategy Show.